For our final legacy lecture of this year, I'm happy to invite to the stage one of the Inner Circle's most colorful individuals, Lance Welch. Lance, as I look back at some of the old scrapbook photos of Lance of the Inner Circle in decades gone by, Lance is all over the place and always has been able to find a great time and has been an important part of this organization. And in his world of Kansas City, he has really an iconic picture of the very effective courtroom lawyer. He's had a remarkable string of legal successes as part of his career. His phrase that he champions as he goes into trial is to never, never give up, which I thought was great. He's had over 200 jury trials. He has set world records, maybe even interplanetary records for jury verdicts on 3 different occasions. He was recognized by the Missouri legislature as one of the best trial lawyers in the world. And he won a $45 million verdict in a wrongful death case, which was, at the time that he got that, the largest wrongful death, or largest jury verdict that had ever come down. And in addition to his extraordinary talent in the courtroom and his many, many, many successes, he and his beautiful wife Laura have been very, very charitable by setting up and funding various charitable enterprises throughout the country and in his area. They have established a foundation which donates over $250,000 a year to a variety of programs. So Lance, you have the podium, and thank you for sharing your insights into your life and times.
This is for any scuba divers in the room. We invented this logo for the Kansas City Divers, and I have some for you if you want it. The first question is, I'd like to see a show of hands of how many of you received this mailer with the accompanying CD. Can I see a show of hands? That's pretty good. How many could invade their private busy practice to take the time to read the book? Could I see a show of hands? Well, a few less. Well, I promise that you will be tested on the enclosed, and therefore those who have read the book are going to be given the opportunity to ask me whatever questions you feel like asking. And I'm going to start it off with this is a question and answer period. And I'm going to start it off with the first question that I get all the time is, why do I call myself Mr. Lucky? And I've had 7 times I should have died. They're called near-death experiences. And after the 7th one, I thought, you were one lucky son of a bitch to even be around here. And then I started thinking of myself as Mr. Lucky. And then as I reflected back, I thought about other things that occurred in my life. For instance, back in 1978, I get a call from a man named Richard Grand who's telling me about this grand organization and seeing if I would be interested in joining it. And as we're talking along, he just tells me it's wonderful that they are considering getting a member from Kansas City, Kansas. And I said, well, Richard, you're like so many geographically challenged people I talk to that they all seem to think Kansas City, Missouri is in Kansas City, Kansas. And it's not. It's kind of like San Francisco and Oakland, if you know what I mean. And there's this long pause. Now, looking back on it, he had to be thinking, oh, Christ, if I screwed up, I'm looking for a guy from Kansas. So he says, after an interminable period, he said, well, let me get back to you. I said, well, okay. And so apparently he thought it over. Now, it turns out we had the brothers Hoverson, as you remember, from St. Louis. So he's thinking, what the hell am I going to do now? But the good news is for me, and why I call myself Mr. Lucky, is he did luckily get back to me and invite me into this group. Another thing that I would suggest on this subject of luck is so much of our successes here are based on luck. I established a number of things I did after I was bar president, is I established the Lance Welch Educational Center. Now in Kansas City, when I started, we didn't have any plaintiffs' lawyers. And I used to go to the NACA. Most of you are too young to remember this, but NACA was the National Association of Claimants Council of America. And I became ATLA. I'd go to their meetings, and then I'd go over to court to watch my heroes try cases. And so I thought, well, if I ever make it, I'm going to change all this. So we established the Lance Welch Educational Center to educate lawyers. And one thing I tell these young guys is this: I can teach you what to do when the mouse comes out of the hole and how to catch him, but I can never help you make that happen. And I know, and I would also tell them, I said, I belong to a group of lawyers, the greatest lawyers in the world, and half or more of them are so many times smarter than I am, so many more times talented, but they have not had my luck. They did not have the Hyatt, the country's biggest man-made construction disaster, occur in South Dakota or Idaho. It happened in Kansas City, Missouri. It's a perverse form of luck, but it was the luck that came my way that allowed the lawyers to vote for me to be in charge of those cases and help them. So anyhow, that's my story about luck and why I'm here. And I'm going to, this is either going to be a very long talk or it's going to be very short if I don't hear any good questions from the audience. All right, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Steve, yes.
Let me make sure I can read this extemporaneous question. If that
Well, before you read that you hold on. Before you read that extemporaneous question, I want to tell you that the Schlesinger boys were telling me, because I said, hell, I'm not, with these people nowadays as smart as they are, you think I'm going to stand up and tell you guys anything about how to get along in life or how to improve yourself? I said, you're crazy. So he says, well, why don't you just have them ask some questions? I said, well, what am I going to do if they don't ask any questions? So his triple smart son, Scott Schlesinger, says, well, let me help you put together some questions. So at the cocktail party, we got some shills, and if any of you guys save those questions, we'll move on here. Steve, go ahead.
No.
Oh, come on.
First of all, what am I, Michelle?
Well,
this isn't my question.
No, you're my pal.
This isn't my question. Don't you think you've directed the production just long enough? Let me just get the question.
I'm never going to invite you back to Aspen again if you don't straighten up.
All right. Having dealt with Lance and known him, I love the guy. He's a great guy. And the only thing better than him is his wife. So this question speaks more to how a man like this could get his wife. No, this is a preface, and I'm taking liberty, but thank you very much, Judy, for helping. Come, jump into my nightmare. The water's fine.